Hello and welcome to Stephen University. This week we'll be discussing your mother and mine. It's
Both
a
called
good one.
Angela.
I'm sorry?
I said both called Angela.
Yeah, can I very quickly explain
your
how
mother
we
and mine.
realised that?
Yeah, it was incredible.
We were doing a review on our other podcast of Batman versus Superman, and we were joking about how they solved their problems because their mothers had the same name. Then we manufactured an argument, me and Chris, and we're like, oh, your mother's named Martha. And then we actually stopped and realised both of our mothers are called Angela.
Yeah, I was like, legitimately, dude, I think our mums do have the same name. And you were like, no, they don't. And I was like, your mum's called Angela, right? And you were like, yeah. I was like, yeah, no, they've got the same name.
And it started as like a joke bit where we were going to solve our problems by having mothers of the same name. And then we actually realised we did on podcast.
Different middle names. This'll freak you out that I think I know this. I believe your mum's middle name is Marie and mine is Susan. Is that correct?
That is correct. I'm assuming that's a Facebook thing.
Yeah, maybe. And I don't know, is it safe to... Yeah, we can talk about our mother's names. I'm sure that's fine.
Yeah. Find them on Facebook. Send them a message. Say
Oh,
something.
my mum's nowhere near Facebook. But if you want to find Dan's mum, check her out. Would that freak her out?
That would freak her out. That would really freak her out. Might get her off Facebook though, which would be worth it. So
anyway, your mother and mine.
Yeah, what's it about?
We got
Chris?
some more Lars, which was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, I was really biting my tongue to tell you because I knew he was coming back quite soon, but I knew you were going to assume because technically the danger had passed in quote marks.
Well, they even went to the effort. They even went to the effort of saying it's time to go home.
Yes. Yeah, but you'll notice that they've. So, my frustration that I expressed in the last episode, or maybe the one before it, about why haven't they just gone home? They've got Emerald's fastest ship, was my legitimate complaint from the time that is addressed in this episode. But I wanted to address and bring it up because that's how I'd felt at the time.
But my interpretation of that was that the engines are buggered as a result of the attack on them in the last episode. So it still doesn't really explain why they hadn't made it home prior to that.
Oh, yeah.
Although, had they only just stolen the ship, maybe? No, because they had that car thing. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. There you go. Well, maybe my concern is still valid. But I thought they explained it enough here to sort of say why.
They certainly showed that they were factoring it in and that they were acknowledging, just in case anyone's thinking it, this is the sitch.
There you go.
Yeah, definitely. So in the episode, I'm going to bring. There you go. I'm just bringing the mic closer to me, Dan. So if that's a little louder, there you go. So this episode, Stephen pops out of Lars's head with a sandwich.
It is the most absurd sandwich I've ever seen in my life.
I swear it disappears really quickly as well. It's not featured in any of the wides for the rest of the episode.
Yeah, where does the sandwich go? It is a physics-defying sandwich for so many reasons. First of all, it's like three times taller than Steven. Yet when he's flopping it about, none of the ingredients fall out of it. Which, if you could find me a sandwich that long, where if you only hold it at one end and don't support the bread on the other end, the salami and all the various ingredients won't fall out of the thing. Then
he was holding it in the middle, wasn't he, to be fair?
No, he was holding it at one end. Because it was comically flapping about as he came out of Lars's head. So, first of all, you've got a sandwich that magically sticks together. I've never seen anything like it. Please, share this technology with the world. But second of all, the way the bread bent and, waved about, I was like, no, this bread physics is all broken, Chris. 0 out of 10 for the episode.
Did make you want a sandwich though, didn't it?
Definitely.
So depending on what the episode's goal was.
If you don't think I'm popping a Subway in a bit, get a sub. You're out of your mind.
So Dan and I once had a legitimate argument about
fresh.
Whether... Oh, don't. That's my favourite thing about the Subway, that when they started, it was all eat fresh. And do you remember, peppers and lettuce was flying everywhere in the advert? And now they're just like, do you want double meat? Do you want double the? Yeah. Do you want a side of bread and cheese? Like, yeah, now they don't. They do not give a shit anymore. It's amazing. Dan and I once had a fun fact. Dan and I once had a. People are like, oh god, the beginning tangents are back. This is the last one. Dan and I once had a legitimate argument about whether you should count a Subway sandwich as a dinner.
By dinner, he means like your evening meal. Like
Yeah. I don't think you should. Dan, not bothered. He thinks you can.
I think you can.
Yeah. So Stephen's appearing with his big flappy sandwich, and they have a chat about the fact that, as we just discussed, the engines are buggered, and they're not moving anywhere, and this is causing a bit of issues. Stephen asks if he can bring someone else through his head. Lars eventually kind of says yes. So I thought that was interesting. I thought if they couldn't, Lars seemed to have a feeling it was someone in particular, but it wasn't hinted enough either way. Because I thought, does he think it's Sadie? Like, what's going on?
I don't think they hinted he knew, because he specifically was like, are they any bigger than you? Like, I don't want anyone bigger than you coming through my head.
Oh, right. I thought that was kind of a bit like, who is it kind of thing.
Oh, no.
Anyway,
I think he was just very concerned at the size of the being coming through his head.
Right.
Which is why Garnet then was like, well, they don't have to be bigger than me, which is why Garnet then shapeshifted into Stephen.
Right. With you, which, by the way, I legitimately thought I'd missed an episode. I was like, Stephen's got a twin, and then that twin obviously forms into Garnet, and then Garnet is chatting to the off-colours and pays them all compliments because she's really excited, and then the off-colours are offended because they don't realise their compliments. And then when Rose Quartz is mentioned, tell various stories about how she was a monster. So Garnet then tells the true story of Rose Quartz, which involves that kind of really cool, not features filled in animation. And she basically tells the story, which is that Rose Quartz was one of the quartz being built on Earth for Pink's kindergarten. Then she began to really appreciate Earth, requested that they didn't attack it and destroy it. Pink Diamond refused, so she started a rebellion. The rebellion was really gaining traction, so she called in Yellow and Blue. Rose then shattered Pink, so Yellow and Blue destroyed everyone. Rose was able to protect the Garnet and Pearl. And then, obviously, Amethyst joined them later. So, knowing that Rose was a hero but still got destroyed isn't good, and the off-colours are still upset. So Garnet talks very eloquently about how they represent love and freedom. A good message, actually, considering we're watching this on the day of London Pride, and we've just had Pride Week, or Pride Month, sorry.
For those wondering, we're watching, what is it? It's Saturday the 7th of July, which in London is Pride Day, and there's parades and stuff, which I don't think I'm going to get to attend. I attended last year, and I wanted to attend this year, and I don't think I'm going to get to.
That's a shame. But Dan has uploaded a song and a video for Pride, so check that out on the channel. And so that kind of message about how if they just go through life being what they want to be, that message will spread. There's bound to be more of them. So they decide to continue the course, but they need to go to what is described as Yellow Diamonds something, and it's really dangerous. But they're excited to do it. Stephen then says what I was saying quite dramatically last week. What's going on? I'm having dreams of Pink. I think Pink might still be alive. And Garnet's like, no, empathy powers.
So what you're saying is Stephen and Garnet had the same conversation we did.
Yeah. And I can't help but agree with Stephen. And then they... episode ends.
We'll talk about the wider point of that in a minute. Finish up describing the episode.
Oh, that's basically it. Episode ends with them going to Yellow Diamond. I hope maybe we get to see that, but I'm not 100% sure we will. But I was proven wrong last week with that. I thought it was great. I thought for what is quite a long flashback and story with that style, potentially the longest they've ever done, possibly. I thought there could be the risk that that becomes as interesting as the story is, that becomes uninteresting. But I think that style is so good and unique, and the story is so interesting that they really pull it off. So I think you get a nice whack of Gem backstory stuff, a lot of which you could probably put together, but it's nice to have it confirmed.
Yeah.
You get some great Lars stuff, which I really liked. I really liked the payoff of seeing Garnet meet them. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I would agree. It's got some really good jokes in it. Like my favorite being the ship, like not working, and then Padparacha being like, don't fire the thrusters. It's gonna break the ship. But like, way too late.
I like the one, and I really actually thought about this more than I should. But at the end, when she's like, I predict that Lars is holding the wrong button, I was like, is that actually foresight, though? Because they've not realised that yet. She has realised that before them, because that's what makes her go, oh, and like he moves them. Yeah, that's what makes him go, oh. But it was still happening when she said it, so it does count. But
he'd been holding that button for a minute or so at that point. So she was catching up to that and realizing it was the wrong button. I actually thought it was a really clever use of her powers.
I did. Yeah, I really liked it.
It's genuinely like I'm waiting for it to be annoying because I've said it before, I think, but like there is such a risk of that being a very irritating sort of.
I still maintain that the bigger one is the slow speaking of I can't remember her name.
Not Road Knight. I always mix. It's always. Oh, God damn, that's gonna.
It begins with F, doesn't it?
It's gonna come to me.
Is that Dan's giving birth or something?
Fluorite.
Yeah.
Took me a second. It was like right on the tip of my tongue, and it was so frustrating. Sorry, yeah, fluorite, because it's the Rutile twins, Padparacha, Rhodonite, and fluorite.
Yeah, I think there's way more risk of that getting irritating than.
Well, did you notice they sort of got round that this week because she started talking and then Lars just cuts her off and finishes her sentence.
Yeah, although I was a little bit disappointed with that because I thought they were then going to do a joke where he was wrong.
Oh yeah. That would have actually been. Yeah, that crossed my mind very briefly. But like, yeah, I think that's actually funnier now. Now I think about it properly. Like the idea that he'd be like, right, we go. She says they're working. Go, and they go, and it breaks. And the reason it breaks is not because it's just not working. The reason it breaks is because he got ahead of fluorite. And she was like, don't use them yet. And it's too late. Like, she's just getting to it. It reminds me of that, it's that joke from Malcolm in the Middle. Do you remember Malcolm in the Middle? There was that kid.
I doubt very much I know the specific joke you're talking about.
Do you remember Stevie?
Yeah,
he was the kid in the wheelchair that spoke a bit like that. He spoke in sort of breathy, one word sort of.
I was thinking of the wrong kid. Then he wasn't Was he part of the family?
No, you're thinking of Dewey, with an E sound at his name. But Stevie was one of Malcolm's friends from his class at school, and he was in a wheelchair, and he sort of spoke like this. And there was a great bit where they'd done something wrong, and he goes, "I'm telling your mom," and the other character goes, "So I've got ages then." And he's just like, touche. It's just such a great gag. So I think you can get a character that talks like that and like make good gags out of it. So like maybe they didn't jump on the opportunity here. I suppose it doesn't mean they won't get to it in the future. They made a good gag with Padparacha this week, so I'm kind of, I'm on board to see if they could do something with that later. You're right though. There was a very easy win here for that to make that funny, and they did sort of miss it because it would have actually made more sense of the fact because the fact that the ship doesn't work just feels plot convenient right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas if it had been Lars's eagerness. How the Nova, the thrusters are fixed. Everyone, let's go! aren't working yet, and you shouldn't use them. Like, that would have been great. Like, so yeah, there is definitely a missed opportunity. Let's talk wider though about like because it came up towards the end of your thing. Let's just get it out of the way now.
Yeah, I don't want to spend. I think we spend quite a lot of it, the last one on it. So I don't want to spend too much
so let's
on it,
talk a little bit about.
Fundamentally, my theory's not changed. I'm pretty sure the indication is that she's still out there somewhere.
Let's dive into that theory a little bit, just a tiny bit. From a plot perspective, how do you think? Let's work on the assumption that you're correct. Let's for just a minute, just to sort of play out the expanded idea of this theory, because it's fascinating to me, because again, it wasn't like a big part of my mind, and even here I still doubted Stephen's thoughts on it. But I should learn, I suppose. Protagonists usually, like in the Harry Potter books, whenever Harry Potter thinks something and no one agrees with him, they're all like, don't worry about it, he's usually right. So maybe I should be paying more attention to what Stephen's saying here. But I still don't take this particularly. I do still think,
but you've still not learnt your lesson.
Empathy powers, but whether you agree or not, that's how I see it. But let's work in a world for a minute where Pink Diamond is still out there, right? In what capacity does an existing Pink Diamond impact the present story? So, one, it makes you rethink the Rose Quartz murder, essentially, shattering.
Which we've had the whole episode of the trial dedicated
100%.
to us.
And the connotation in that was that someone else had done it, but the idea that it wasn't done at all, it also is interesting.
And even here, in the flashback, it's a bit, the rebellions were fighting. Oh, it was a horrible time. So Rose Court decided to whip out a sword and shatter Pink Diamond. And you're like, well, that seems awfully extreme. Even here, it's just, I don't know. It's just
they were sort of...
Like, there's no explanation, because I don't really understand how shattering her would stop that. Because it would clearly just piss off the other... Like, what? I don't get that, really.
No, that's interesting, because the way I saw it, because the way they say it here is that, I think the words they used were there wouldn't be anything left to protect. So her whole initial rebellion was over saving the Earth, but the war itself was ravaging the Earth. So she had to put an end to that conflict on the surface of the planet, which was being led at the time by Pink Diamond. And I think maybe the assumption would be that the other diamonds would come for her, not for everyone. That's what I took from it.
And therefore leave Earth, because it's no longer about the planet. But
because that wasn't their colony. They don't care. It's our colony. Yeah. They've all got hundreds. Earth itself would be safe, but she would be putting herself in danger, because by being the shatterer of Pink Diamond, you're essentially the target for the wrath of the other diamonds. So what I think is really awesome is like how spiteful then and how evil must the diamonds be to have gone, no, every gem on that planet is being corrupted now. And that's because that's what that corrupting light is. It's like it's the thing that turned them all into monsters, So when you see
then also at some point go and build a cluster.
Well, I presume the cluster. Oh, was the cluster already there? Yeah, actually, that's a really good. I think no, the cluster was being built during the war by the Pink Diamond forces, I think.
Right. Okay.
That's the impression I've gotten in the past. So and then the diamonds. I love that. Like, do we go for the gem that did this? No, we're gonna kill every single gem responsible for this, not just the one that wielded the sword. We're gonna corrupt them all. So though you see those two hands, and then the third hand joins them, which is the first full close to anything other than a mural glimpse we've had of White Diamond, by the way, which is really cool. One of the things I got most excited about seeing this episode was seeing those three hands, shoot that corrupting light, towards the Earth, and then actually seeing that Rose used her shield to protect Garnet and Pearl from that fate is also really cool, because Greg described that seasons ago. He talked about how she could only save a couple of her friends. So, like, finally visually seeing that is really cool. And what I like as well is they changed the style on the flashbacks this time. So in the past, the flashbacks have all been silhouette-y to the point where, like, it's all been really fuzzy and vague and hard to, because it's all swimming around. But as Stephen is building up a knowledge of what certain things look like, these flashbacks get more detailed. Did you notice that? Like, you could clearly see Rose's outfit on her silhouette. You know, you could clearly
Bismuth
see
and stuff was quite visual. And,
it was very specifically bismuth, like more identifiably bismuth than in the previous flashbacks. And someone's actually corrected me on that, sorry, as well. One thing, because I've been meaning to say this for weeks and I forgot. We talked about how it was weird that Steven visualized bismuth in the Lapis flashback when Lapis showed herself being poofed and put in the gem. That was Lapis showing Steven. So that's why it looked like a bismuth.
Oh yeah,
She was inputting that information into it. That's why it looked like a bismuth. But then it raises the question of, was it our bismuth or was it a bismuth? Anyway, different story. That's a whole issue. That's a whole.
I suspect our bismuth, but yeah.
Just because the dramatic potential of those two meeting at a later date is too good, right?
Well, yeah, and also why would it be a different bismuth? You know what I mean? If there's I just think it's more likely, just for dramatic potential, storytelling, continuity. Yeah.
I agree. Anyway, so let's think about the sort of let's expand that idea about Pink Diamond. So Pink Diamond still exists. What role would Pink Diamond play in the future of the show? Would Pink Diamond be a villainous sort of returning vengefully? Where's Pink Diamond been? Like, what's your idea of like how that actually plays out?
I have no idea. I think
because you wouldn't do that without having a good thing to do with Pink Diamond. You wouldn't keep Pink Diamond alive after all this for something trivial. Because the other Diamonds certainly think Pink Diamond is gone.
Yeah, and Blue certainly seems convinced, and almost on a, she would feel it sort of way if she wasn't. But I just...
Can I share a theory from the time that might help you?
Yeah, because you're right. The question of what she's been doing all this time stumps me a bit. The theory... Unless she's... what if she's poofed somewhere?
Well, that's exactly the theory that came up at the time. I remember on Reddit reading a theory that there's a chest in Rose's lion's mane in her little collection of shit.
Oh yeah,
there's a chest that's not open, and the one of the theories that I read, in fact, I think I read this multiple times, was you have to excuse my sniffling and stuff this morning, guys. My hay fever is at its worst in the AM, and we don't often record in the AM, but we are doing today. The theory was that in the chest was Pink Diamond poofed.
That's good.
So that she couldn't bring herself to shatter Pink Diamond, but she could bring herself to poof her and trap her inside Lion's mane.
But how do you shatter someone without? How do you appear to shatter someone without actually shattering them? I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, I suppose because they were witnesses, weren't they? I don't know. I don't know.
That's a great theory, though. The fact that you're telling me that theory, I don't know, suggests that's not the case.
No, you keep forgetting how close we are to being caught up, Chris. You're still living in a world where I know all the answers. No, we're welcome to the new world. The Dan doesn't know what's going on like you. So
okay, fair. I think that's a great theory. Then I think that's a brilliant logical theory because we haven't seen inside that chest, have we?
No, he's never been able to open it. In fact, when he got the big key from Lion, that's the first thing he tried it on.
Yeah, I slightly struggle with what is it about that ship. Then again, she was clearly on that ship, so she's alive. He can feel her from that. He's in the ship. He can get senses from that.
Yeah, maybe again, I don't think I'd still maintain even if you're right. I still maintain proximity irrelevant. I don't think that proximity has any factor on his empathic powers. He was in America and she was in Korea, and he could see her dreams were for Blue. So
he was still on Earth, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, but we've just never tested the theory outside of that. Like, yeah, she was still on Earth, but like, just because in that case she was still on Earth, she was still miles and miles and miles away, basically the other side of the planet. Like there's there's no indication yet that there's a limit to the proximity of that power. So that's
Yeah.
I may,
That's
whether
fair.
I agree with you or not. I think at this point
I'll
my
concede
strongest
that.
reason for thinking that Pink isn't still out there is simply that I just don't know what role Pink would play in the story going forward.
Well, I suppose the most revenge, like, getting revenge on the other gems, on Steven.
I suppose the idea of Pink reactivating the beta kindergarten and trying to take her colony back on Earth would actually I suppose that is actually a really awesome plot. Now I think about it.
Yeah, it's quite an epic plot, isn't it?
Yeah, God.
We've spent a lot of time on Pink again, and I've just realised that we haven't gone back to the episode, so I think we should do that.
Yeah, 100%. No, it's just I just wanted to explore it because it's really interesting, and it's what people were talking about when these episodes were airing for sure. So
I think the chesting is a great. I don't know. I think, but the chesting I think is really cool, and the notion of her doing some kick-ass revenge plot, and I think being poofed makes sense because she's been trapped somewhere. That's where she's been. She's trapped.
Yeah, that's certainly if you're living in a world of you want to explain what if she is alive, and you want to explain where she's been. The answer is Rose couldn't bring herself to shatter, so she wasn't a hypocrite in like as Bismuth thought, but instead she somehow made a poofing look like a shattering, and then simply hid the diamond elsewhere. Yeah. Because specifically, Bismuth said about her sword, poofing the gem, but never damaging the, poofing. I can't remember how it was phrased, but never shattering. That Rose's sword specifically has been established multiple times is not capable of shattering.
Yes, so she'd have had to have used the what was it called?
The breaking point.
The breaking point, that was it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, what other elements of the episode did you love? I thought the notion that it's so beautifully sad, but fascinating. The notion that Garnet, is so excited to meet them, but they assume she's taking the mick.
That honestly,
beautiful.
Yeah, that was heartbreaking because it was just like you guys think so little of yourselves that you think another.
Yeah, and Garnet had such genuine excitement,
which was so sweet.
Face. Yeah, absolutely.
And I love the slight tone shift for each of her reactions. Like each of them got a very distinct reaction from Garnet. Like Garnet obviously had a tell me your story with the pearl and the ruby.
That was cool. I really like that. She's like, I bet that's an interesting story. That was great.
And then with Pad Paracha, she was like, "Oh, you're so rare, like an orange sapphire. Like, you're so special. You're so unique." And then she gets to Fluorite, and she's like, "Oh, how did that happen? Aren't you beautiful?" Like it almost felt like a.
Fluorite's just let's call a spade a spade. Fluorite's just a big, beautiful orgy.
Fluorite is okay, not literally, but like, yeah, kind of. Like, I don't think that's too far from the truth. I think it's kind of awesome. And the Rutile twins, her reaction to them as well is again like quite unique. Like each one gets their very unique reaction from Garnet, and I think it's really clever. If you're gonna bring any of the gems through, Garnet. Because Garnet,
yeah. When the second Garnet appears, because there's a moment when the twin is sort of unshape-shifting, where I was like, because we're just so used to Amethyst shape-shifting, I was like, 'cause he brought Amethyst through? But then when it was Garnet, it was like, oh, thank God. Like, this is the more interesting story.
Definitely, because, well, I mean, I think Amethyst comes in a close second, because Amethyst would also technically be an off-color of a sort, wouldn't she? Because she's undercooked or whatever. She's runty. So Pearl would probably be the one you would least want to bring, because she'd have the least ability to relate, to the off-colors, because Pearl is probably the most sort of... She'd be the one that would be able to pass as a normal gem on Homeworld, basically, of the three of them. Amethyst would struggle because she's runty, and I think obviously Garnet was shunned by Gem Society because of being the permafusion. So and a fusion of two different gems as well. Yeah. So I thought like it was really clever to choose Garnet to be the one to come through, and also because I think Garnet has the most neutral perspective. Pearl was was one of the initial rebellies with Rose. Garnet sort of was part of Pink Diamond's, or Blue Diamond's sort of. I can't remember which diamond. It was blue, I think, wasn't it? A presence on Earth.
Yeah, I think so.
And then became shunned from Gem Society, and then Rose, who already was with Pearl at that point, sort of found it. So I think Garnet has the most Garnet didn't necessarily turn because Earth won Garnet over, or Sapphire and Ruby. Garnet turned because she found acceptance. Yeah. So, in terms of retelling that story, I think she's probably got a more neutral perspective than Pearl. Is that fair to say? Because Pearl was very much for the cause, and Garnet came on board with that cause eventually, but initially it was nice to have someone who just, someone and somewhere that appreciated you for who you were.
I thought the Pearl of the flashback was interesting, actually, because she's described as being a Pearl without a master, or something akin to that, isn't she?
Yeah.
But that's never really been discussed before, has it?
No. They've established that in Gem Society, Pearls, generally speaking, are gifted to high-class gems. Because,
exactly.
There's an old line.
Oh, that's interesting.
There's an old line where Peridot was sort of I'm not high-class enough to have a Pearl. Well, I think so. There's two ways you could look at that line in this episode, which is that either she had a master that was destroyed and was just a loose Pearl, and therefore was gifted.
Which is my assumption, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe in the war, I don't know. And then the other way to look at it is that she was quite simply like the last puppy at the pound, had just not been selected. Had not been assigned, and then as a result, sort of was on Earth just floating about, as an extra pair of hands, and sort of weirdly found a master in, to use the phrasing here, found a superior, someone to follow in Rose. If Pearls are designed to follow a higher class gem, and she hadn't been assigned one, and then she came across Rose Quartz and these ideals, and they made sense to her, and let's be honest, she has the hots for Rose. That all would have come together in one moment, wouldn't it? And she would have then definitely sort of filled that role, but for Rose instead of like a diamond or some other high class gem. So I thought that was kind of neat. You're right though. Yeah, when I heard that line, I was like, I want to see the episode about that.
Yeah, absolutely. But there was quite a lot of that in that flashback, because there was also Rose fell in love with a dancing cave woman or caveman, it would appear.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting as well. Fell in love, and there was a specific shot of a kiss, which I was when I first saw it, I was like, oh, who and what? I don't. We don't know this bit. Tell us that story.
If Stevens picked that up from his mum, then Connie's in trouble, because
yeah,
Stephen's going to be going from one fling to another when he hits puberty.
Isn't it the curse? It's sort of the curse of the Time Lords a little bit, though, isn't it? It's like when you live thousands of years.
Yeah.
So, because that's what I've always taken it as that. Because they even hinted at it in the episode with Greg, where she said there have been others. He is one in a long line. But it did feel like they were making a point that this first one was special. That this first one was a big part of her reason for rebelling. And that's really interesting.
Yeah, so, and I just thought it was interesting because I just assumed it was so long ago that, I don't know, I didn't assume it was dinosaurs or something. But I was surprised to see people, humans, anyway. I just assumed this was, like I say, so long ago that man hadn't evolved yet.
Yeah,
so
I'd
to see
actually
her dancing with people, I was
like a primitive man. Yeah, actually, that really is an issue for me, actually, because I always also agree. I agree. I also felt that man came later. But I suppose it does make her rebellion make more sense. She
it adds a bit more heart to it
because it's saying that not only is there life on this planet, there is intelligent life. But we as humans are happy to
see that.
Yeah, but we as humans are happy to genocide bugs on a mass scale when they infest an area they shouldn't be or whatever. So it's we draw a line at certain levels of intelligent life, don't we?
Fair. Okay. Yeah.
So from a diamond's perspective, so to us, big animals, see.
Yeah, I think humans, without making a big political statement on animal protection or whatever, Humans seem to draw the line based on size, Dan. Ants are incredibly intelligent. Bees are incredibly intelligent.
Yeah, precisely.
Still kill them, but because they're not as big and obvious as all those other animals that you
mice,
keep as pets.
we'll kill mice quite happily. We'll lay out poison or whatever. But it is strange. There's a weird line drawn somewhere, and it seems now to be as well not just about size but about number. Like, oh, we've got plenty of those. We can cull.
Yeah,
like
crazy.
Anyway, but my point is, if humans can think like that, diamonds can think like that. So I suppose
fair enough.
It makes more sense to me that, like, realizing there was an even sort of more intelligent life form developing on the planet that had all this potential might actually have been another catalyst for Rose to do what she did. Because again, ultimately she led to a huge number of gems being shattered, poofed, corrupted, all of the above.
Well, you also get the impression that maybe the diamonds didn't take their warriors back as well before destroying everyone.
Well,
so
we know that's true, because if it wasn't Centipede on the diamond side.
Oh yeah.
And got caught in the corrupting light just all the same. I bet they evacuated as many ships as they had time to before the diamonds arrived. Like, get a few of the ships off if you can. Don't worry about it though, because it's all going to be gone when we get there. And then the diamonds just fucking obliterated. It's honestly, it's so badass, and does make you, like, this episode really does reestablish why the diamonds are such a threat. Like, just kill everything on Earth. Like anything gem related, just corrupted. Don't worry about it. You're gone. You're no longer a threat.
I loved Lars's just really sweet acknowledgement as well, where he's just like, your mum did all of that. I just love this notion that Lars is developing this such a rich understanding of the world.
We theorized
awesome.
about that though. I think when he first got out there, which is the idea that he might know more about Gem Homeworld by the end of all this than Steven does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really cool that those two worlds have sort of crossed that way.
Yeah, and I know we said it at the beginning, but just as sort of almost a summary thought, I just so much respect to this episode for manage. If you'd have described this episode to me, I'd have gone, oh god, I want both of those things. I want a flashback. I want us to touch on Pink. I want us to, have that. But I also want to get some bitching Lars stuff, especially after last week when, like, I know we got the first part was very Lars, but I was a bit, and I loved Jungle Moon, but there was an element of, it's a shame we've waited so long for Lars, we're not going to get him. So if you'd have described this episode on paper to me, I'd have gone, right, well, they can't do both justice, but they absolutely did.
I'd agree.
Both elements of it are really well done, and you feel satisfied in terms of both elements, and that for 11 minutes and two quite heavy-duty plots is really impressive.
And I think from a grand scheme of things as well, it's kind of clever to do this now before the off-colors reach Earth, because now they are invested in reaching Earth, because Garnet has very cleverly established that Earth is a place for those who don't feel welcome in Gem Society to come and be themselves, and that's exactly what the off-colors needed to hear Earth was. Do you know what I mean?
Do you think we're going to go back to them next week, or did you think that? I really want them to, but I just don't. I don't know.
I believe I got to watch this and the next couple of episodes together, so I didn't have a huge amount of time to think about it, if I'm being completely honest with you. I believe that I will have flicked through it. Like, I don't think I waited even a minute to watch the next episode. Okay. Which so that's one of those things. So it's a shame I can't really remember what I thought, but I also, because I had 4 or 5 in front of me, I don't think I'd have even cared knowing that next week was a Townie episode or whatever. That would
because there is the only way I would really care or be particularly angry is if the next time we go back to Lars we don't see them on that mission, because you've set that up. So
right, yeah,
let's see sense. That.
Yeah.
I bet this episode is rife for Triv. What we got?
See, I thought that, and I looked through it. There's not as much as I thought there was. But let's hit on some of the points. Obviously, this is the first technical on-screen appearance of White Diamond, though she's not directly mentioned, and only her hand and silhouette are shown. Yeah, pretty cool. Loved seeing that.
Yeah, that was cool.
We talked about it already, though. It is implied in this episode that rose quartz was actually made in the Prime Kindergarten. That was news to me when I saw this episode, actually, and we didn't
Yeah,
get a
it was
chance to
news.
discuss it.
Yeah, it was news to me as well, and I was a bit like, but I think you've said before, haven't you? Aren't the quartzes and the jaspers and the amethysts quite like similar?
Yes, they're all related. They're
Right, yeah.
So jasper, rose quartz, and amethyst are all from the same line of gems, which is true in real life as well, to my understanding.
Right, okay, cool. Because I was like, oh, so she's like a jasper or an amethyst, and then I was like, oh no, I think I know that.
Yeah, she is in stature for sure. Like if you take her out of her sort of dress that she wears, and you put her in like that, if you look at the silhouette of her in this episode prior to rebelling, she's wearing a very similar outfit to like what Jasper wears and what Amethyst wears.
Yeah,
that with that like sort of triangle down thing towards that diamond shape in the center.
Yeah,
and I like that she became a more elegant sort of like she took on this persona. Because she, I guess, like many great warriors, she knew that sometimes it's easier for people to rally behind a symbol and an ideal than it is to rally behind a person, because people are flawed. Which is, I think, really cool element of this show, which is that all these people, talk about Rose in this like she was this incredible thing, because she knew that the only way to really inspire troops in that way was to be this perfect symbol of hope and glory and, all these ideals. So people put all that onto Rose not because they're stupid, but because she presented that intentionally, because that's what a leader does. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Look at, and it's kind of messed up when you think about it, but it happens in our society. People rally behind figureheads and leaders and personalities that represent ideals to them, and that they're actually all horribly flawed people, I'm sure, because that's all people are flawed. There's no one out there is a perfect representation of any ideal, and this idea that like that's how Rose presented herself is like makes so much sense. It's also the way the diamonds present themselves. There's a reason everyone on their side from Homeworld is like my diamond, because of course it's the same thing, in a weird way.
Yeah.
Slightly more subservient, but it's a really interesting element of this show, and I loved in this episode seeing that transformation where she's wearing that outfit, or she's visually looks like she has that same sort of design that the amethysts and the jaspers that we've seen have. That sort of like, it's hard to explain that outfit. It's the one that has lines going down from the shoulders to the center and then up from the other side to the center. Jasper has it. All the amethysts we saw under Holly Blue Agate on the not Jungle Moon, in the Human Zoo had, and then Rose has it here. And then the minute she decides to rebel, she shapeshifts into with having this like more elegant design. And what I think is really cool about that is that could be the first hint at the idea that somebody could change their appearance without being poofed.
Yeah,
which we haven't.
And like just to change it because of a change of, like you say, ideals and feelings and wants and stuff.
And she knew that being an icon, sort of more of an icon that represents those ideals, was a more valuable thing for her to be, which is really cool. Anyway, let's have a look. Obviously, Stephen relates to Garnet about what he saw, and it's connected to what he saw from Blue Diamond's perspective on Earth, which we've done. The episode's title is a reference to a song of the same name featured in Peter Pan. Oh, that's right. There is a song called Your Mother and Mine in Peter Pan. I'd forgotten about that. Well, there you go.
That's cool.
Yeah. Lars's beginning monologue is obviously a reference to the Star Trek franchise, as captains from the series are known for monologuing their ship's progress in the captain's log at the start of every episode.
Another good joke where they're like, should we be writing this down? And he's like, yes, of course.
Yeah, I like that as well. The silhouette art style in this episode most closely resembles the art style used in the flashbacks in the anime Revolutionary Girl Utena? Yeah. Sorry, I've got this on like, I copied this into a document to cull the bad ones, and the text is so hard to read in the way I've copied it because I'm an idiot. So bear with me. And also ignore my sneezing. Again, hay fever. This is the first appearance of Steven since Lars of the Stars. I didn't call that one. Should have done. We haven't seen Garnet since Gemcation.
Wait. It's the first appearance of what?
Sorry, 1 second. I'm going to have to blow my nose again, Chris. I am sorry. I can't breathe. Oh, Breathing is super important, it turns out.
Yeah, hay fever's a bitch, man.
Oh, it's been
It's
horrible.
the and yours will probably be worse anyway because your body will be climatizing to a new location.
Yeah, it's been horrible this year. It's been the hay fever apocalypse.
Yeah.
So the first one is
like when we lived by the river last year. No, did we move back? Yeah, no, we still were. My hay fever was awful, man. Like it was funny when we moved out and we moved back in with mum and dad. Jess was like, I didn't realise how bad your health had got, like living because I'm asthmatic, and we lived really close to a river, and fuck, it was bad. Like,
yeah, it's deeply unpleasant.
Separate thing.
They said the pollen count is higher this year than it's been in like 15 years, though. So
really?
this year has been the hay fever apocalypse in England. Yeah, I saw there was several articles about it 2 or 3 weeks ago when it first kicked in really
did
bad.
it say it's the first appearance of Stephen since Lars of the Stars, but Stephen was in Jungle Moon? Is that what you read out?
But he wasn't in Jungle Moon. That's what they're saying.
But he was in Jungle Moon.
Stevonnie was in Jungle Moon.
Oh, right, yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Fine.
That's why. Yeah, it's kind of the repackaging trivia from the previous episode.
I consider to be Stevonnie a combination of Stephen and Connie. Therefore, Stephen is there. Jeez.
The first appearance.
Yeah, fine.
But like they're repackaging trivia because the trivia from the previous episode was this is the first episode in a while, the first episode ever to not include Stephen, which is fine. But then you're sort of making that trivia like, oh, it's Stephen's first appearance since Lars of the Stars. Like, no, you're kind of cheating. I should have called that one.
No, I think that's fair game. I think if you're going to count one as trivia, you can count the other one as well.
I don't think so. But anyway, this is the first appearance of Garnet since Gemcation, which is actually interesting because that has been a few episodes.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved that episode, but it was a while ago.
Yeah. Apparently, this is the second time that Garnet has shapeshifted into Stephen. The first being in Keep Beach City Weird, which, oh yes, that is when her and Amethyst both shapeshifted to Stephen and fight. And it's like just different coloured Stephens battling each other for some reason.
Yeah, I remember.
That's funny. Stephen references the events of the previous 2 episodes. That's not what I should have called that too. Greg previously mentions that Rose's shield had protected herself, Garnet and Pearl, from the corrupting light back in the return. This is now seen. Yeah, there you go. So that's what I mentioned earlier. No, that's the rest, because the last 2 trivias are sort of how this episode ties to future episodes. And I don't want to give that stuff away.
Yeah, fair enough. There's now, by the way, a lot of yelling outside, so I'm going to close the door when we stop recording. Apologies if that's being heard.
Can I answer a question you asked me a very long time ago, Chris? Because I've been meaning to tell you this information for ages. When we were doing the fan content one, and you were like, where did that shot of Pearl smacking her ass come from? Did they make that?
Oh, yeah.
It's from the show. There's an episode where Amethyst, like, mocking Pearl, shapeshifts into Pearl and keeps smacking her ass and going womp womp. I know this because a couple of days ago me and Nadia watched somebody told me at the time when we discussed it, and they basically recolored it to look like Pearl's colours but kept the animation.
I was going to say, but yeah, Amethyst never is, why wasn't the Pearl purple? But right, that makes sense.
So the person did sort of adjust the animation. They made the colours correct, but that's a lot easier of a job than animating that from scratch. So that's where that comes from. What I think is really funny, though, is how I remembered that I needed to tell you that. Someone told me at the time, and it never came up, and I forgot. And the other day, me and Nadia were watching a collection of Amethyst shape-shifting comedy moments on YouTube, because what a weird because Nadia wanted to watch the one where Amethyst turns into Dogcopter, but because I guess Dogcopter isn't enough entertainment, she then turns her head into a beatbox and starts playing music to which you can see Garnet like bopping to in the background. It's really funny. It's a great moment. I barely remembered it, but Nadia really wanted to rewatch that moment. So we looked that up, but it came up in a collection of other Amethyst shape-shifting moments, and the womp womp, I'm Pearl, womp womp moment came up, and I was like, oh, that's so funny, and it was also where that came from. So there you go.
That's awesome. Cool. Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
There's now a fly in here, so we need to wrap this up, and I need to try and get rid of this fly and or bee.
And all the people yelling.
Yeah. That'll just shut the... Well, this is the problem, Dan.
Can't shut the window.
Ideally, I'd need to open more windows to get rid of the bee. But in order to shut the people up, I've got to close all the windows. So
oh my god, it's the Sophie's
well,
choice.
the window in here is closed, but because Jess isn't in, although she might return soon, so I might have to shut the door because we're recording another one. I've got to close. So the window in here is closed, but there's a window like in another room open, which is where the noise is coming from. So oh shit, that was me hitting my mic. That won't help.
What do you do?
What is
it, Chris, to do?
Well, I'm going to open the windows, all the windows, for the duration, because we're about to record another SU. So for the duration of the next episode, I'm going to have all the windows open, and then I'm going to close all the windows again.
Wow. Bold.
That's my plan.
Good plan. Well, we'll leave it at that then.
Yep.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. As always, you guys are the best. Because you are.
The very best.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I do. I agree.
Yeah. And so, actually, I read a comment the other day on... can I say this sometimes happens? I sometimes stumble across people talking about our show when I'm just browsing Steven Universe subreddits for other stuff. And it's really weird when I see people talking about us. But someone was like, oh, Steven University, I really like that show. And there's someone underneath it says, and they've built up a really friendly community of commenters as well. Someone said that in reply to the person saying that.
That's awesome.
And I thought that was really nice for a couple of reasons. One, they had no idea I was find that. It was a coincidence actually that I stumbled across it. It was in a completely random place, I think. I don't know how. I'm not even sure how I found the comment, to be honest with you. I was just browsing the Steven Universe Reddit. And I just thought that was really nice because it's a good observation. I think it's true.
Yeah,
I think we have cultivated a really nice crowd, and I think all you guys should be proud of yourselves. And I'm really sorry that I don't get to reply as much as I used to. I do intend to get back to that, but it's been a rough couple of months in terms of my busyness. So yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you very much for your continuing support, and go check out Dan's Pride song or Pride cover.
Yeah, it's the Garfunkel and Oates song "Rainbow Connections," and it's such a beautiful song, and I'm so behind the message of that song. So yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, cool. There we go. We'll see you next week for what's the episode called, Dan?
Well, we'll do. Well, do you want me to tell you now, or do you want to find out when I say it dramatically as our final?
Oh, I'll find out when you say it dramatically. Let's do it.
Well, in that case, I've been Dan Doolan.
I've been Chris Billingham.
And we'll speak to you next time as we discuss The Big Show.